And welcome, sports fans, to today's roundtable. And what a week it's been in area high school athletics, especially when it comes to high school basketball, as we're well into state tournament play for classes 1 through 3 and finishing up district play for classes 4 and 5. And it's been a great year of basketball, and we're seeing some of the best basketball all year this week. And what a game we had yesterday in the boys class 3 sectional in the Matter County Central in Charleston, which we'll talk about in just a moment, that went into double overtime, and many others throughout the area that were exciting as well, and starting to trim down the state tournaments to eventual Final Four participants. And we'll have Final Four participants after this weekend for classes 1 through 3. So it's very exciting for handful of schools that are going to be vying for Final Four participation next weekend in Columbia. So we'll be looking forward to how those games develop this afternoon. And we got some other things we're going to talk about as well. So we're glad you joined us right here on the Roundtable, and you can be sure to tune in each Saturday right here on YHC and CMOSportZone.com. And before we move ahead, we want to show you the replays we're going to have right here on Channel 21. The boys Class 3 sectionals that we aired live yesterday will air today at noon and 6:30, and also over the weekend. So you can catch that today at noon and 6:30 right here on Channel 21 on your new wave cable, and we will have it uploaded to CMOSportZone.com probably by later on today. And it's a double overtime thriller. Certainly want to watch that replay for today. And also the girls Class 3 sectional that we aired yesterday after the boys game will air today at 1:30, actually 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, that's going to air later on today. So we'll look forward to that replay of yesterday's game as well. And let's go ahead and get to some games from yesterday. And we'll first start off with the Class 4 District 1 semifinals. And from Sikeston last night, it was Notre Dame over Kennett in the 1 semifinal. The top seed Notre Dame Bulldogs over the 5th seeded Kennett Indians, 75-58. So Notre Dame advances to the Class 4 District 1 championship this evening. And in the other semifinal, it was Sikeston, the 2nd seed, over, no, actually the 3rd seed, Sikeston over the 2nd seed, Cape Central Tigers, 75-43. Big win for the Sikeston Bulldogs last night, and they will host Notre Dame tonight at 7:30 for the Class 4 District 1 championship. Should be a good one between those two schools, Sikeston and Notre Dame, and it is in Sikeston, so certainly going to be a big night for Sikeston, which we'll get to in just a moment. So big game tonight, Notre Dame and Sikeston for that Class 4 District 1 title. Also, let's move up to Class 5 District 1, and this is the championship. It's actually the finals of that from last night. And yes, it is the finals of that last night. Jackson over Poplar Bluff, 73-59. Jackson wins the Class 5 District 1 championship up in Fox last night, and a big win for Jackson. That's their 3rd straight district championship for Class 5 District 1. It may have looked like that Poplar Bluff would have had a nice shot. They were the top seed in the tournament, and it was a very neutral court up in Arnold. So both teams had to travel to play that district title. So home court advantage certainly wasn't the case for this district title game. And Jackson come away with a victory for their 3rd straight district title, and they've been close the past couple of years. They've made it to the quarterfinal round the past 2 years. Really had a good shot last year, just come up a bit short, but they're going to be right there in the mix to potentially make it to the Class 5 State Final Four in Columbia this year. They've got one talented group there in Jackson. Poplar Bluff, very good season this year, just come up a bit short in the district title game, but Poplar Bluff certainly turned some heads this year in the CMO Conference. And on to the girls' Class 5 District 1 final. And this is actually the finals. And it was Jackson over Northwest, 57-27. and Jackson moves on to the Class 5 state tournament. And Jackson, a very good team this year, and they had a kind of a scare early on in the tournament in the semifinal round. They took on Poplar Bluff, and Cassidy Tomzu had to hit a three-pointer at the buzzer just to send it into overtime. And the Jackson Lady Indians eventually won that game, moved on to the finals where they defeated Northwest by 30 points last night in Arnold at Fox High School. So Jackson moves on as well, so they'll be able to take that bandwagon to the sectional round for both boys and girls for Class 5 sectional play for Jackson. So good luck to the Jackson Indians, both boys and girls, going forward. It will be exciting to see how they fare going forward. And in other games, a game that we brought to you live yesterday afternoon in Class 3 sectional play, it was New Madrid County Central defeating Charleston, and it was 102-95. And what a victory it was for the New Madrid County Centrals, going into double overtime. And we've got the highlight here for you to show from yesterday, and probably game of the year kind of atmosphere yesterday here in Dexter at the Bearcat Event Center, as we're going to take a look at the highlight from yesterday. First off, Charleston got off to a nice start, as we see here. Delfinko Bogan getting a nice bucket, jumped out to a 9-0 lead. But New Madrid County starting to storm back midway through the first quarter. But here, a tough shot by Ewing in the first part of the second quarter. And the second quarter is really when New Madrid made their run to get the lead. A nice bucket and a foul by Willie Jemerson. And here's another jumper in the lane by Jemerson, which had a big game, which we'll talk more about here momentarily. And Jemerson again up in the paint, having to double clutch on the shot. And here he is again going through the lane, scoop shot up here in the second half now, as the fourth quarter gets really interesting. Delfinko Bogan gets the basket and the foul as they're making their own run to come back, and then Javarcus Word into the lane. And now Bogan had about 13 points in the fourth quarter, a nice up and under with the reverse, and now a three-pointer to cut the 4-point lead to 1 with under a minute to play by Sharp. And now here's where it went back and forth in the last minute of the game. New Madrid got the 1-point lead, got the timeout off the steal, and now a three-pointer to tie the game at the end of regulation, and knocks it down. Ewing knocks that shot down to send it into overtime. And here's the end of the first overtime. New Madrid needs 2 points just to tie it to send it into overtime. A couple of shots won't go, but then Willie Jemerson gets the rebound, gets fouled on the shot. He'll go to the line with no one around, with no time remaining, hits one, needs one more to tie just to go into double overtime. Hits both of them. 2 big clutch shots from Willie Jemerson. And now going into double overtime. Here Aston Newsom really come up big on the boards underneath for the Eagles. And now here Willie Jemerson gets the rebound, and he's going to take it coast to coast all the way with the scoop layup. And it was all New Madrid in the double overtime, winning 105-92 in double overtime. And what a game that was yesterday here in Dexter between those two schools. We've used to been seeing them in district championships for many years, but with Charleston moving out to District 2, we got to see them in the sectional round, which I think is the first time ever for New Madrid and Charleston, and it was a great one. And come down to 2 overtimes, and it was dramatic, to say the least, especially there in the last minute of regulation. Had turnover, and teams switching leads, and it was just totally unpredictable, this game. That's what really made it stand out in that double overtime. And big play by Willie Jemerson. He had 53 points in the game, just unbelievable performance by him. And Jemerson come up with those 2 big free throws just to send it into double overtime. Down 2, you're all alone. Everyone, all eyes on you. No one at the line, having to stand there by yourself to knock down those 2 free throws to send it in overtime. Some of the biggest clutch free throws you'll ever see at any level, and that was Willie Jemerson knocking those down yesterday. And I tell you, he had one of those Chris Webber moments. It was kind of scary there. I think it was in the first overtime. He got caught at the midcourt and called timeout, and I think they were already down 1. He called a timeout at midcourt. He was trapped, didn't have anywhere to go. Called a timeout, didn't have a timeout, and a technical foul was called. And Charleston went to the line, knocked down 2 free throws, had a 3-point lead and the ball with around a minute to play in the first overtime. So it was he had a Chris Webber moment there. He called that timeout and didn't have one, and he bounced back great and hit them 2 free throws to send it in to double overtime. And pretty much took over that double overtime. And one of the better performances you'll ever see in a high school game, especially in state tournament play, 53 points. Just amazing. It's certainly one of those games you'll remember if you were there. You got to watch it here on Channel 21 or SemoSportsZone.com. It's one of those stories, 10, 20 years down the line. It's like, hey, remember when Willie Jefferson had 53 against Charleston in that double overtime game? It was one of those games you'll certainly remember and tell stories about down the road. And it was a privilege to be there, and a privilege certainly to air it right here on Channel 21 and SemoSportsZone.com. And again, we'll replay that game today, Saturday at noon and 6:30, and it'll replay Sunday at 4. So look forward to that over the weekend. And we'll have it uploaded to SemoSportsZone.com as well. And taking a look at the other games from yesterday, in the other sectional in Class 3, Park Hill, this was actually from Thursday. Park Hill Central defeated Maplewood Richmond Heights 45-40. So Park Hill Central advances to the Class 3 quarterfinals, and we'll talk about that matchup coming up. And in other games, boys Class 2 sectionals yesterday, and this game was originally scheduled for Three Rivers College and Poplar Bluff. They had to move that out to Mountain View Liberty, out in Mountain View, and Scott County Central defeated Thayer 67-61, and Scott County Central advances on to the Class 2 quarterfinals. And in the girls' Class 2 sectionals, or actually it's Class 3 sectionals yesterday that we aired, Saxony Lutheran over Twin Rivers 70-36. Saxony Lutheran extending their undefeated season to 29-0, and they advance to the quarterfinals coming up. And the number 1 ranked team in the state in Class 3, undefeated, just making their way pretty much to, paving their way to Columbia once again this year. And Saxony Lutheran, very good basketball team, and you can catch that replay at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Saxony Lutheran and Twin Rivers. And in the girls Class 3 sectional, in the other Class 3 sectional, Park Hill Central defeated Whitfield 72-34. So that sets up Park Hill Central and Saxony Lutheran in that sectional quarterfinal matchup, which has certainly been a widely anticipated matchup that's taking place this afternoon. And in the girls Class 2 sectional, it was Neelyville over Chaffee, 76-41. Neelyville dominant in that sectional win over Chaffee. They advance on to the quarterfinals, only 1 win away from the Class 2 State Final Four in Columbia. And that's all the scores from the last few days in high school basketball. And we're going to take a break and look forward to going to talk about the Class 4 District 1 finals taking place today, boys and girls, and also take a look at the state tournament brackets going forward. So we'll talk about that coming up.
Deposit your check here or here or even there. Deposit your check wherever you are with First Midwest Bank's new mobile deposit. Just tap, snap, deposit. It's that simple. New mobile deposit from First Midwest Bank, serving the communities we call home.
Always on the go? Take the best in TV entertainment with you with New Wave to Go. Now you can enjoy your home television service everywhere, anytime on your laptop, tablet, or smartphone. Watch your favorite channels and sporting events live via the internet. Even access your home DVR to enjoy your recorded shows and movies or to set up future recordings. Prices start at just $12.99 a month. So call us today and ask about New Wave to Go. Another innovative service brought to you by New Wave, your local communications experts.
And now we're going to take a look at the Class 4 District 1 Finals that will be taking place this evening over in Sikeston, and taking a look at the district tournament for the boys. As we saw in the first round, Kennett defeated Perryville, and Sikeston defeated Dexter to move out to the semifinals. And earlier in the week, Notre Dame defeated, or actually last night, Notre Dame defeated Kennett, and Sikeston beat Cape Central. That sets up your final, Notre Dame and Sikeston, in that matchup this evening. Should be a good one. Sikeston having it on their home floor for that home court advantage, and Notre Dame with a decisive victory over Kennett the other night, and also Sikeston get a decisive victory. It's going to be a game to watch this evening for sure. And as it's been with the SEMO Conference this year, you just don't know. It's kind of a coin toss. I know Sikeston having it on the home floor will be an advantage. The Sikeston crowd is going to be ruckus, of course, if you can imagine, and just really don't know what to think about this game. I know Notre Dame, they've got Poitras and company, and Sikeston's got Fred Thatch and their bunch. I just don't really know what to expect from this game. If I were to guess, I would say go with Sikeston, with the home court being to their advantage, but you just really don't know. The SEMO Conference teams have just been so evenly matched all year long. You just really don't know what to expect. So we'll see what turns out in that game this evening from Sikeston. And you kind of had to look at Greg Hollifield, how he kind of puts together such a good game plan in these games. And it seems like Sikeston always comes out in these district title games for some reason. With the exception of last year with Cape Central up at Cape Central. It just seems like they always find a way to come out with these district titles. Even this year, they were kind of going to come down a bit, even though they came down a little bit last year. But you just kind of give Sikeston that edge when it comes to a preparation and just rising to the occasion, or living in that moment of winning that district title. So we'll have to see later on tonight at 7:30 for that Class 4 District 1 final, Notre Dame and Sikeston. Should be a good one over at the Sikeston Fieldhouse this evening. And also taking a look at the girls' Class 4 District 1 title this evening will be Dexter and Sikeston. And taking a look at the tournament so far, Cape Central defeated Kennett in the first round, Notre Dame over Perryville. Then Dexter defeated Cape Central decisively the other night, and Sikeston handled Notre Dame pretty well in the other semifinal that matches up Dexter and Sikeston. And these two teams recently played just last week. Dexter defeated Sikeston 55-50 on Sikeston's home floor. So we know we're going to have a close one due to that game last week. And this has been an anticipated matchup all year long. We've been used to seeing Dexter and Notre Dame in these finals the past handful of years. That big rivalry. Notre Dame's really got a young bunch this year. And, Dexter bringing back two of their starters from last year, but also got a very talented underclassmen class in there, especially among the freshmen. And they've put together quite a good season, and back in the district championship where they will take on Sikeston, which it's kind of strange to mention them in the district championship, but they've got a really talented young group this year. I think they're mainly sophomores, this bunch, with Sikeston, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But very good team in Sikeston. They really get after you defensively and force turnovers, and like it showed last week, a low-scoring affair, 55-50 between those two girls' teams. And Sikeston may have the benefit of playing Dexter already once, and maybe coming back with a little better preparation for the district championship, but you can say the same for Dexter as well, having going up against their aggressiveness, being able to game plan for that better in the second time around. But we'll see. Should be a good one tonight at 6 o'clock at the Sikeston Fieldhouse. You had to say Dexter's certainly the favorite with the way they've played over the past few years and the talent that they have on the floor, and also winning last week's game in Sikeston. Should be a good one for that rematch this evening and Sikeston. And it just doesn't sound right, Dexter and Sikeston for the district title. It's been Dexter Notre Dame for so long, but it's just the way the cycles work. And Sikeston, that's one benefit they'll have. They'll have the crowd showing up on their home court with both the boys and girls teams playing. They're going to show up for the girls and going to be waiting around for the boys after. So Dexter's certainly going to have to bring out their crowd to kind of match what Sikeston's going to bring, because with the boys playing at 7:30, they're going to bring the crowd early for the girls game as well and fill that crowd up. And Dexter will certainly need to bring as much as they can, bring as many as they can to match the intensity of the crowd that Sikeston will have on hand, playing with both teams playing in the district finals this evening. But should be a great atmosphere tonight in Sikeston for the Class 4 District 1 finals for both boys and girls. So I look forward to that this evening. And now we're going to take a look at the Class 5 state tournament. Class 5 state tournament. This will say district, but it's actually the state tournament top half. This is a round of 16, the sectional round. And this is the Class 5 state tournament top half, which Jackson will take on Vianney next week in the Class 5 sectionals. And take a look at the other matchups on the top half of the bracket. St. Louis University taking on Battle, Blue Springs South taking on Jefferson City, and Kickapoo taking on Nixa. So Jackson looking good for the sectional round next week, taking on Vianney. And the girls' Class 5 state tournament top half, it's Jackson taking on Kirkwood. And the other matchups, Coruscant Academy taking on Fort Zumwalt West, Rock Ridge taking on Camden, and Kickapoo taking on Republic. So Jackson and Kirkwood going to be in that Class 5 sectional next week. And Jackson's another one of those teams that'll have the benefit of having the fans gear up for both boys and girls. Certainly that's an advantage if you got both teams participating, in both boys and girls for those state tournament games. Just brings both the boys and the girls followings to one location, and it makes it a good advantage if you're going to be playing on a neutral court to bring both teams, and that means just that many more fans will show up for those state tournament contests. So should be interesting to see what develops next week in that Class 5 state tournament. And we're going to take one more break, and we're going to be back with the Classes 1 through 3 quarterfinal rounds, and only one game to play in each one of those rounds to determine the final four for each of those classifications. And we'll be back with those coming up.
We want a chance to earn your business here at Harry Blackwell Ford in Malden, Missouri. And with prices like these, we will.
Like this beautiful 2012 Ford Focus SEL with only 53,000 miles for $13,900.
Look at this loaded 2008 Nissan Maxima SL for $11,900. Come see Bub at Harry Blackwell Ford.
And I'm here to make sure all your financing needs are met.
I'm Harry Blackwell, inviting you to join our family for your next automobile. You'll be glad you did.
What is your emergency? Need assistance at County Road 61 and Highway 9. Help is on its way.
Clear! There's a better way to jumpstart your soil back to health. Apply Endzone to protect and increase nitrogen efficiency without killing bacteria. Apply Prevent to increase phosphorus availability and reduce fixation. Better yet, use them both to get more from your fertilizer investment and see higher potential yields. Ag Explorer, your prescription for healthy soil.
And now let's take a look at boys Class 1 state tournament. And these are the teams remaining in Class 1 as Advance is taking on South Iron. That will be taking place today. And what a matchup that'll be. South Iron, the top-ranked team in Class 1. At South Iron, the top-ranked team, one of the top-ranked teams in Class 1. And South Iron's one of those teams that have struggled over the last few years getting out of district play. They've been number 1 ranked team in the state, losing districts, but they've got a very talented group this year. They'll take on the Advanced Hornets later on today in the Class 1 quarterfinals, and should be a good one. Advanced over Gideon earlier this week, which was a great game between Gideon and Advance at Bloomfield. And you can watch for yourself on SemoSportZone.com. You can watch that sectional game from Gideon and Advance earlier in the week. You can watch that on SemoSportZone.com. So be sure to check out that game. It was a great game coming down to the end between Gideon and Advance. And also in the mix there in the quarterfinals, Glasgow and Meadville, Walnut Grove and Leeton, and Winston and Stanberry. Those contests taking place today, and the winners will advance on to the state Final Four in Columbia next weekend for the Class 1 semifinals. So that'll be fun to watch, see what happens in these quarterfinal games this afternoon. And also taking a look at boys Class 2 state tournament, and the quarterfinals taking place today. That's Scott County Central taking on Valley Catholic. That'll be taking place up in Farmington this evening. And Scott County looks to get back to the state Final Four this year, being in Class 2, up from Class 1 last year, looking to get back to the state Final Four in a more competitive class in Class 2. They look to take on Valley Catholic. And, Valley Catholic playing up north of us here up at St. Genevieve, and Scott County probably widely considered the favorite in that game to advance on to the state Final Four in Columbia. So it's going to be a great feat by Scott County if they can duplicate what they've done over the past few years in Class 1, doing it Class 2, and they've certainly got the opportunity to advance to the Final Four later on this evening. It's a 6 o'clock game this evening at Farmington. And in other games of the quarterfinals in Class 2, Gainesville and Crane, Canton and Salisbury, and Sacred Heart and Mid-Buchanan. Those are the other quarterfinal games taking place later on today. And taking a look at boys Class 3. Class 3 quarterfinals taking place today, and that's New Madrid County Central and Park Hills Central. And this game's taking place at 1 o'clock this afternoon at Jefferson College in Hillsboro. And that'll be a good matchup, an anticipated matchup this year. Whoever come out of New Madrid County Central and Charleston was likely to meet up with Park Hills Central, who's had a good year. New Madrid's going to have a quick turnaround. That's the only disadvantage they'll have probably going into the game, as they played a double overtime game yesterday afternoon, and now less than 24 hours got to turn around and play Park Hills Central on the road, at least a 2-hour bus trip up to Hillsboro to take on Park Hills Central. So that's certainly going to be at their disadvantage. Park Hills Central got to play Thursday night, so they had a day in between. So from that standpoint, Park Hills Central will have that advantage, but I think just on paper going into the game with the matchup, I think New Madrid is going to be the favorite in that contest, but you never know. You never know about these things. I can remember back a few years ago, New Madrid played in the semifinals of the district tournament against, can't remember who that exactly was against. I think it was maybe against Charleston, and advanced over Charleston in double overtime, and then actually I don't know if I have that right. But anyway, Kennett come out on top in the semifinal round. Team having to go through double overtime just to get to the finals, and you could tell they were gassed the next day. But we'll see what happens in Hillsboro this afternoon, as Jefferson College is the host of that quarterfinal between New Madrid County Central and Park Hills Central. And we've got quite a bit of contacts this morning about us carrying that game. We won't be carrying that game up there in Hillsboro this afternoon, but I know some radio will be carrying that. I know one of the I know New Madrid's carrying radio this year. I can't remember what station that's on now, but apologize for not having that. But we will not be carrying that New Madrid and Park Hills Central game for this afternoon. We'd had to be on the road by now to be there by that 1 o'clock start in Hillsboro. And in the other quarterfinal matchups taking place, it's Blair Oaks and Stratford. Also Madison Prep and Father Tolton. And Barstow and Lafayette County. Those are the remaining teams, and this is a very competitive field in Class 3. Blair Oaks and Stratford, very good teams. They're state ranked in Class 3. And also down the way is Madison Prep, who's been very good over the years, and Father Tolton Catholic. They've had a very good year, come out of nowhere this year, and a very competitive team. I think they are the number 1 ranked team in Class 3 currently, I believe. And Barstow, right there in the other quarterfinal matchup down the way, Barstow was number 1 earlier in the year. They took a few losses to some very competitive Kansas teams, and they dropped to number 2 or 3 in the state in Class 3. They're right there in the mix. So you take a look at that Class 3 quarterfinal matchups, the teams that are in there, very competitive, and even in semifinal play going forward, it's going to be a quite talented Class 3 Final Four. If you're talking about Father Tolton, Barstow in one semifinal, and presumably, say, Stratford or Blair Oaks taking on, say, New Madrid, it's going to be very competitive in that Class 3 Final Four. You won't probably see any blowouts in that Final Four come semifinals next weekend in Columbia. It's going to be very competitive, probably the most competitive classification you'll see in the Final Four for this season. So it's going to be fun to watch to see if New Madrid can advance to their first Final Four since 2002. Just happened to be a part of that team in 2002 and pulling for those Eagles today to get back to the state Final Four in Columbia. And teams went to the Final Four 3 straight years in 2001, 2002. Now having a chance in 2015, only 13 years later, with a chance to head back to the state Final Four in Columbia for the New Madrid County Central Eagles. So we'll see what happens later on today in that quarterfinal game. And now taking a look at the girls. The girls' quarterfinal matchups in Class 1 today. Naylor looking to get to the state Final Four in Columbia with a game against Chadwick later on today. And also Tuscumbia taking on Mercer in the other quarterfinal. Walnut Grove taking on Drexel. And Southwest taking on North Andrew. Those are the quarterfinal games taking place today in Class 1. And Naylor always a mainstay in Class 1. They've been to the Final Four numerous times, looking to get back to the Final Four today in girls Class 1 quarterfinal action. And girls Class 2 quarterfinals, Neelyville looking to get to the Final Four as they'll take on Clopton later on today, and that will be in Farmington later on tonight at 7:30. And in the other matchups, Gainesville taking on Crane, Northeast taking on Tipton, and Skyline taking on Santa Fe. All these quarterfinal matchups determining Final Four participants in Columbia next week. And Neelyville's had a very strong year, one of the top teams in the area, pretty much regardless of class. They've competed against many teams across the classifications here in southeast Missouri, and they've got a good chance at advancing to the state Final Four for next week. And one of the best teams. They're probably a top 2 or 3 team in southeast Missouri this year. Very talented group there in Neelyville. They've had talented groups over the years past, but I think this is their strongest year of the past few years, and they've certainly got a good chance to advance on to the state Final Four in Columbia for next weekend. So best of luck to those Neelyville Lady Tigers later on tonight in Farmington. And now taking a look at girls Class 3 state tournament, the quarterfinal matchups. Saxony Lutheran, the undefeated Saxony Lutheran Lady Crusaders, will take on the Park Hill Central Lady Rebels later on today. 2:45 start at Jefferson College in Hillsboro. Should be a good one between those two. Very anticipated matchup this year between those two schools. Class 3, very competitive this year. with Park Hill Central moving down from Class 4 last year to Class 3 this year. Certainly worked to their favor, but then again, they'll have to match up with Saxon Lutheran in the quarterfinal round. And Saxon Lutheran, the top-ranked team in the state in Class 3 and undefeated, 29-0. And Saxon Lutheran come away with 4th place last year in the state tournament and look to get back with a win over Park Hill Central later on this afternoon. And Saxon Lutheran, a team made up of freshmen and juniors. We carried that game with twin rivers yesterday, and they're a team of juniors and freshmen. You hardly ever see that. You hardly ever see a team without seniors, but let alone just juniors and freshmen, no sophomores. And a very talented junior class they've got. They've been very talented ever since they were playing as a freshman class. They competed at a high level as freshmen, and they competed very well last year, of course, going on to the state Final Four, and now as juniors, very dominant this year as a junior class. So you know they're going to be even better next year as seniors. But very impressive junior class there at Saxon Lutheran, looking to extend their undefeated season to 30-0 today with a win over Park Hill Central. But Park Hill Central, very competitive team. Park Hill's very talented girls Skags there in Park Hill Central. Very, very physical team there in Park Hill Central. So should be a great matchup. Probably the premier girls basketball matchup for the season between those two this year. Park Hill Central and Saxon Lutheran with a Final Four bid on the line for Columbia next week in the semifinals. So look forward to that Class 3 quarterfinal this afternoon at 2:45 from Jefferson College in Hillsboro. Saxon Lutheran and Park Hill Central later on this afternoon. And in other matchups today in Class 3 girls, St. James taking on Buffalo, Cardinal Ritter taking on Southern Boone County, and Booneville taking on Chillicothe. And St. James team right there in the mix as well. I think they're ranked 2nd or 3rd in the state in Class 3. And that very well may be your state championship potentially in the semifinal round between Saxon Lutheran, presumably Saxon Lutheran and St. James. That would probably be the best matchup there potentially in that semifinal round. So some big games ahead here in the quarterfinal and potential semifinal round for girls Class 3 in the state tournament. And that's pretty much all to report on for state tournament play taking place this weekend. And very exciting time. As I've said all year, this has been a great year in high school basketball, boys and girls. Very, very good season on both sides, and some of the best games I've seen in a handful of years, even all the years that I've seen high school basketball this year. You talk about the Bernie and Scott County Central game that took place last week, very competitive. Also earlier in the week, Gideon and Advance, very good game in the section round in Class 1, and it doesn't. And none of them beat yesterday's game, of course, with Charleston and New Madrid County Central, double overtime, clutch shots on both sides, Charleston and New Madrid, just both teams playing at a very high level in that game from yesterday. And it's it's worth showing some of those highlights again, just so people tuning in to the show a little later. We showed the highlights at the first of the program, and we'll go ahead and show some of those highlights again from yesterday afternoon between New Madrid County Central and Charleston. As we see here, Charleston got out to a nice run, 9-0 run to start off the game. New Madrid stormed back, as here we see here late in the first and the second start to make a run, as Ewing knocks down a tough shot there in the second quarter, and there's where New Madrid makes the run. Willie Jemerson getting to the lane, basket and the foul. Jemerson again with a jump shot in the lane, and it's quite a highlight reel for Jemerson in this game. A double clutch shot there, knocking it down the lane from Jemerson. And here Jemerson into the paint here in the second half with a scoop shot. And here, Charleston making a run of their own. Delfinko Bogan with the rebound, basket, and the fouls. He had a big second half, especially in the fourth quarter. Javarcus Word with a nice drive and finish. And Bogan again with the spin move up to the basket. And here, big shots late for Charleston. This is a 4-point lead for New Madrid, cut to 1 with under a minute to play. And here, New Madrid getting a steal and already with a 1-point lead. They take a 3-point lead on free throws, but here at the end of regulation, 3 by Ewing in the left corner, knocking it down to tie the game, sending it to overtime. Big clutch shot from Ewing to force overtime. And here at the end of the first overtime, New Madrid down 2, needing 2 to score to send it into a second overtime. Willie Jimerson puts up the shot on a rebound, and he's fouled. All alone at the free throw line with no time remaining, hits 1. He needs to hit 2 to send it into a double overtime, knocks them both down to send it into a double overtime. And here in double overtime, Aston Newsom comes up with some big boards and putbacks as he gets the basket and the foul there, as New Madrid just pulls away in the double overtime. As here, Jimerson gets a rebound. He's going to take it coast to coast, go up into the paint with the finish, and that was it. Double overtime. New Madrid County Central over Charleston, 105-92, and the double overtime thriller from yesterday. And one of the best games you'll ever see in high school basketball. And it was both teams. It was very unpredictable there, as I mentioned earlier in the show. Willie Jimerson had a Chris Webber moment there in the first overtime. He called timeout at half court. He was trapped, didn't have anywhere to go. He called timeout, didn't have any timeouts. Technical foul. Charleston was already up 1 with about a minute left in the first overtime, and Charleston went to the line, knocked down 2 free throws. They were up 3. New Madrid battled back, as we saw there, and tied it up with 2 Willie Jimerson free throws with no one at the line. All eyes on him. Had to hit both of them just to tie to force it to double overtime, and he did, and come up big in the double overtime as well. But Jimerson had 53 points. He's going to get a lot of the attention, as he should. Anytime you score 53 points in a game, you're going to get a lot of attention. But they had a lot of big play from other players as well. Aston Newsom come up big in that double overtime period. Had probably 6 or 8 points in that double overtime period. Some big rebounds and putbacks from him, who really pushed out that lead in the double overtime period. A big play from him. Some big shots from other. Jamarcus Word had some big shots and some great finishes at the basket. Chris Farr hit some big shots in that game as well. So just a great team effort by New Madrid County. And on the other end, Charleston performed at a high level throughout the game. Delfinko Bogan picked up his 5th personal foul with about it was around a minute to play in the 4th period, and they had to storm back just to tie the game to force overtime without Bogan, and played the entire overtime and double overtime periods without Bogan, and almost pulled it off without Bogan in the overtime period. But when New Madrid stormed back to tie a game and forced it to a double overtime, and Charleston just didn't have any answer offensively there in the double overtime period. New Madrid just pulled away with that second overtime period. But Charleston almost pulled it out without Delfinko Bogan, which is the big part of their team. So you got to credit Charleston with a great performance yesterday and some big shots from a couple of those kids, Sharp and Ewing. They're late with some 3-point shots to force overtime there in Dexter yesterday in that Class 3 sectional. So one of the best games you'll see. And again, we're going to replay that game right here on Channel 21. Channel 21 here on YHC TV, New Madrid County Central and Charleston. That'll be replaying at noon and 6:30. And for those of you tuning in on SemoSportsZone.com, you can just go over to YHCTV.com, and you can watch that replay on our live stream at noon and 6:30. We won't have that. We'll just keep the live stream up on SemoSportsZone.com for all those wanting to watch that replay of New Madrid County Central and Charleston. We'll keep the live stream up on SemoSportsZone.com, and you can watch that at noon and 6:30 on both SemoSportsZone.com and YHCTV.com. And we'll get those games uploaded to SemoSportsZone.com as well for the weekend. And that's pretty much all to report on for today. It's going to be a very exciting weekend as teams will advance to the state Final Four in Columbia for next weekend. New Madrid boys have a chance to advance. Saxon Lutheran girls have a chance to advance in Class 3. In Class 1, the Naylor girls have a chance to advance in Class 1, and Advance has a chance to advance in Class 1 as well. In Class 2, Scott County Central has a chance to advance for the boys. And also for Class 2, Neelyville has a chance to advance in Class 2. And that's your Class 1 through 3. We could have Southeast Missouri teams representing all classifications, boys and girls, Classes 1 through 3. And that just goes to show how well teams have played this year from Southeast Missouri. So that would be something to see boys and girls teams represented across Southeast Missouri in the state Final Four for Classes 1 through 3. That would be something. I can't really recall that ever really happening for both boys and girls. We've sent quite a few boys teams across classifications, but certainly not boys and girls, and that shows you a high level of basketball being played in Southeast Missouri this year. And of course, we got Class 4 and Class 5 wrapped up their district tournament. Class 4 tonight, big game, 6 o'clock. The girls' Class 4 District 1 final, Dexter and Sykeston at 6 o'clock. And following is the boys at 7:30. That's Notre Dame and Sykeston for the boys' Class 4 District 1 title. So should be a big game. Should be big games this evening in Sykeston for those district championships. So be sure to tune in for those later on this evening. Or don't tune in. Go see them, because we'll have them on the air. But you can go see them there in Sykeston this evening. And that's all we've got for you for today, and we appreciate you for tuning in as always. Look forward to seeing you right back here with us on another Roundtable next Saturday, live at 10 a.m. And until then, I'm Tyler Wagner. Have yourself a great weekend. Take care, everyone.